a woman in Bengaluru was fined 500 rupees for eating on board a Namma Metro coach. That woman there was caught on camera for eating in a metro. She was called out by a fellow passenger, and now that video has gone viral. And Namma Metro has decided to fine her. Remember, eating on a metro isn't just frowned upon, it's prohibited. According to metro rules in Bengaluru, food inside a train is a strict no. The reason is, of course, to keep coaches clean. That's what they've sent as a guideline right after this video went viral. A press release was sent out where it said very clearly that the rules underline that you could be fined for eating inside a metro coach. The reason is to keep these trains clean, avoid littering, maintain basic hygiene, and this is for all passengers, so everyone has to adhere. But here's a question. Is such a ban really needed? Across metros in New York, London, Paris, you'll often see people nibbling on a sandwich or sipping coffee or feeding a child. There's really no outrage or no limitation in metros you see largely across the West. So why does India need a rule book for something as basic as this, eating in a metro? Well, because we've seen what happens when civic sense goes missing. In India, we see how trains like the Vande Bharat, symbols of India's progress, have been literally defaced. People spit in public, they toss garbage out of cars, scribble on the walls, jump signals, and basically it's as if there are no rules that apply. Rules are there, it's meant to flout. That's the approach that we largely have here. And then we wonder why people don't take us seriously. This is exactly why. Look at that Vande Bharat that had windows broken. India is, of course, aiming high, racing ahead in tech, infrastructure and economy, but our behavior certainly needs to catch up with our ambition. Maybe that fine wasn't just about food. It was about reminding us that civic sense at this point is not an option. It's a must. And we desperately need to incorporate that in our daily life. And hey, let me also tell you that there are countries that ban eating inside tubes, and that includes countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, China. They have steep fines all the way to 21,000 rupees in Indian rupees if you eat inside their metros. Japan and South Korea, you literally get stares like daggers if you eat inside metros. It's frowned upon. You'll rarely ever see anyone violate that unwritten code. Let me bring in our panelist right here, Vivek Menon, who is a civic expert and former advisor to the Chief Minister of Karnataka, to give us a take on should India revisit such a ban? I mean, the kind of support, Vivek, that girl got saying, how dare you? So what if she eats inside the metro? She had no time to breathe. What if she had fluctuating sugar levels? You know, cut her some slack. Do we need a ban, really?
So, Nabila, it's an interesting question, right? Because it's got two faces to the same coin, right? The bottom line is that, we are victims of our environment. And if you look around us, our cities have become urban slums. Essentially, there's garbage strewn all over the place, there's stench that comes from various parts of our city. And, in a closed environment like a metro, you have to be conscious about what you're doing, how you're littering, how you may end up littering the place. So I think in a certain sense, I do agree with the Bangalore Metro in terms of prohibiting people from carrying food stuff. It could be sometimes, meats like meats and fish, which could have, a stench that may be obnoxious and obviously disrespectful to the other travelers. So in a sense, we have to agree with these agencies that are trying to enforce this. Now, unfortunately, in India, when we look around, in fact, even in Bangalore, which is supposed to be, a very progressive city, we see, garbage strewn all over the place. The BBMP has recently, in fact, introduced a solid waste management cess of almost close to 24%. An increase, but will we see a clean city? Perhaps not. And I think that's where the problem emanates from. Our agencies basically are very interested in capital expenditures because they make a lot of money through corruption there, but there are absolutely no maintenance contracts that are given out. So in the absence of maintenance, what you see is a degradation of the infrastructure that's actually been built.
Right.
So
I agree, but if you have to deter people, and especially a community like ours, The Indians are
Right.
known to have no civic sense, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
We've seen that across the world. So maybe
Yeah.
a fine will really act as a strong deterrent.
Yes, a fine will act as a deterrent. Now, if you look at the Bangalore airport itself, right? I mean, we have enough of eateries within the airport itself, but we do have waste bins that are placed at strategic locations so that people can actually dispose off of waste. So, like I said, we are victims of our environment. If we had a clean environment, if we could create a clean environment, which is the responsibility of our civic agencies, then we could have, food on the metro, because there would be a mechanism, there would be a standard operating procedure to clean these metro compartments as they come through stations, or probably at the end of the day. But in the absence of a mechanism like that, we are going to see some kind of enforcement that's needed. And at the end of the day, today I should say that in the past year or two, we have seen that there are huge violations. Even when you take traffic, there are people going up the wrong way, all of that happening
Yeah.
in spite of enforcement.
Yeah.
So I think there has to be some kind of deterrent. Now, of course, yes, she's been fined 500 rupees, but like you said earlier, it is a larger message that is trying to be conveyed.
Yeah.
That that this kind of this kind of maybe attitude, this kind of lack of civic sense is not going to be condoned. So yes, it is a double-edged sword, but this time I have to go with Metro, because at the end of the day, if we let people until such time that there's a social movement towards changing how people look at our city, how people feel about our cities, this whole national pride or local pride that needs to come in. I mean, just a case in point real quickly, if you look at Sri Lanka, it is a smaller version of India, but it's so much cleaner because there's civic sense that prevails, and there's an enforcement mechanism on the other side that ensures that people do not litter or people do not.
So from what I see here, Bengaluru Metro's move could be encouraged. I think we need to start somewhere, so be it. If it's a fine, then that should act as the first barrier to shape our civic sense. Thanks very much, Vivek, for joining us on that.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.